ocean blue. Okay? Those are the... Somebody just knock on the door. Yeah. Sherry, hit it. Okay, focus on me. So the ocean sets the precedent then for a lot of what we know in the international legal system. All right, exceptions or reservations just mean that... Hey, Patrick. You missed so much good time. Sad. Exceptions or reservations are when countries sign a treaty but don't agree to all of it. They sign a treaty but they don't agree to all of it. So for example, exceptions or reservations. So sign treaty but you don't agree to all of it. An example of this is when the United States signed and ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. They had an exception that said that we could still use the juvenile death penalty. Yeah. How many of you are from Texas? Woo, death penalty! But that's an example of an exception or reservation. All right, sovereignty. Anybody tell me what sovereignty is? Sovereignty, yeah. Yeah, so area of control. So sovereignty means the area of control. In international legal terms, countries, which are also referred to as states, not like 50 state style, but like international system state style. Countries or states have sovereignty over their land. They have sovereignty over their land, which means that the U.S., for example, gets to pass laws that cover the land of the United States. Make sense? Okay, this is going to be super important later when we talk about the fact that nobody's really sure about sovereignty in space. Yeah?
Could you repeat the definition of sovereignty?
Yes, I can. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. Sovereignty is area of control. Area of control. So states have sovereignty. States have sovereignty. And it's really clear when you're talking about, the land, the terra firma of the earth. Everyone's clear. Wherever the border is, anything inside of those borders, a country's got sovereignty. And so they can pass laws that cover that area. This becomes a little dicier when you're talking about, air. I'm gesturing. Do you see the air? All right, then. Questions about any of these terms? Okay. I want to talk about a couple of other, all of these are UN-based, a couple of other key international actors. CT did a good job of kind of giving you a quick run-through of lots of different international actors. And I do mean quick. Did you think he was quick? Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit in more detail about some of the agencies within the UN that have important roles to play over the international system of space. So the UN is actually the key coordinating agency that deals with space at a global scale. Key coordinating agency. Now, what do you think I mean by that? What do I mean by key? Yeah, it's the most important. And it coordinates a lot. Why do you think that we in the globe decided that we needed to coordinate stuff? Hey, can I make a note-taking suggestion? It is clear to me that some of you are quick, get what all on the slide, go, go, go. Which means that you're not listening to me about the UN key coordinating agency because you're way down there going reports to committee of the peaceful uses of outer space. Okay? So work with me. Work through it. Okay? Make sense? Nod your head if you're listening. Nod your head if it makes sense. Nod your head if you're apathetic and will refuse to nod your head because I've asked you to. It's that whole row right there. Right there. Right there. Alrighty then. So the UN then is the key coordinating agency. Instead of chilling in New York, they are in Vienna. And apparently they love their website. Look at this fanciness. That's fancy. I can, by the way, if you would like, give you my email address at the end, and if you want me to email you these links, I'm happy to do that, so that you can go back and look at this, because you can see that there's a lot, including reports here, that you might be able to use for evidence, that we read into base and stuff? All right, then. So a couple of things about this particular website. You can see that just in March, well, you can almost see, just in March they had a big meeting, the interagency meeting on outer space activity. And the big focus there was space and climate change. And this is going to be a theme throughout the discussion today, that there's been a lot of shift in the attention of the UN, so focusing on things that they view as global problems in the space area, things that they view as global problems. So there's a real effort at the UN to try to coordinate all of the space stuff to try to benefit everybody, whether you are a space-faring country or not. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's going to be a theme that we'll see kind of throughout. And then you can also see that they've got an invitation. If only you had known. You could have gone. It's been awesome. Okay then. So, as I mentioned to you just now, the UN Interagency Meeting on Outer Space Activities. This is the body at the UN that meets every year. They get together every year, and they have some different topic. So, for purposes of debate, looking at previous topics that the UN Interagency Meeting covered might give you some evidence to be able to read in a debate about problems. So like that climate change one of the apps that like my lab is working on is SPS, making it bigger and better than the pre-institute stuff. SPS can really be used to help to monitor climate change, and it can also help to address climate change by replacing coal-fired electricity or natural gas or oil and stuff like that. And so if we're looking for impact cards about climate change in space and trying to use space to address it, this might be a place that we would go. Okay? So that's part of the reason to understand these agencies. All right, the UN Interagency Meeting on Outer Space reports to the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, which is also abbreviated COPUOS. Copious. I just made that up. I don't know if that's how you say it. I think it looks though like an acronym that would be in like a James Bond movie or something. Copious, the Death Star, something like that. Anybody? No? All right, fine. I want to show you their website as well because it also has some resources and it's pretty. And has pictures of like these people. And then apparently a lot of people, I don't really know why you would put this kind of a picture on your website other than say like, people care about what we're doing. Because look, they're at the meeting. Oh look, we're so happy with each other. We like shake hands and stuff. So that committee itself has two subcommittees, the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee and the Legal Subcommittee, which you can see down there towards the bottom of the webpage, the Scientific and Technological Subcommittee and the Legal Subcommittee. So those subcommittees do exactly what you would imagine that they do. One of them deals with science and technology, and the other deals with negotiations over legal issues. And we're going to talk about some of those legal issues that is confronting that particular committee. Okay. Item the next. There's also two more things I want to talk about. The UN Program on Space Applications. This is relatively new. Those other committees were established in the late 1950s, early 1960s. This committee was in the late 70s, early 80s, or this program. They deal with the usage of space. Who's in the lab? Raise your hand if you're in the lab that's dealing with the mining app, Helium 3. Okay, so that's an example of a usage of space that was not anticipated when these committees got created. And so the role of these committees evolved as stuff in space evolved. And so this particular program deals with the usage of space, and that can sometimes be controversial, because if the Ruskies, since they're the only ones with the launch vehicle, make it to the moon before us to start mining helium-3, is this UN program that's going to have to sort of be the mediator about that and who actually has the rights to some of that? And so it's an important issue. The goals have shifted a lot at the program, and as I was mentioning to you earlier, now these UN agencies are doing a lot more to sort of deal with how space affects everybody on the Earth, not just the U.S. and like old school Soviet Union. Does that make sense to everybody? So they're really doing a lot more. One of the examples of that is called UN Spider. The UN, by the way, loves their acronyms. They love it. They think that it's super fabulous. And the UN Spider, and I'm going to say this, but I don't know that you necessarily need to write it down because everybody and their cousin refers to it as UN Spider. UN Spider stands for the United Nations Platform for Space-Based Information for Disaster Management and Emergency Response. You can see why they call it UN Spider. You should too. But given the name, what do you think this organization does? Does not catch spiders. It's also not like that minority. Have y'all seen Minority Report?
Yeah.
Do you remember those like little spiders that would like go into people's apartment and like grab them and scan their eyes? No? Okay, well that happens. Thank you, I appreciate that. Alrighty then, so back to UN Spider. I'll say the name one more time. Platform for Space-Based Information for Disaster Management and Emergency Response. I got you. Yeah, for what purposes?
Like big natural disasters to help out.
Yeah, okay. Have you ever seen, like, when there's, like, some big hurricane coming, have you ever seen a satellite image when there's, like, a hurricane on the ocean someplace or in the ocean? Have you all ever seen that? Okay, so it's, like, big, swirling, white, whatever. And then the UN Spider helps to take that information and actually convey it to people who may be affected. So if they see that hanging out in the South China Sea headed towards Japan, then the UN Spider, sounds weird, phones Japan's like, hey Japan, look out, this is coming. Okay? Yeah, all right then. So that's the kind of thing that they do. They also can help to monitor when there's like been devastation moved through. Have you all seen the images of Joplin, Missouri after the tornado? Okay, really, really horrific. Those kinds of images, if they occur on a grand scale, can also sometimes be seen even from space and from our satellites. And so UN Spider would be able to help to diffuse that particular bit of information. All right, now. Okay, this by the way is like violation of like PowerPoint 1.0, okay? So much text here, so much. You do not need to try to write this down because we're going to talk about each of these in turn, and I'm going to give you the like quick name of it. So the first one is the Treaty on the Principles Governing the Activities of Space and Exploration and Other Uses of Outer Space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies. Everyone calls it the Outer Space Treaty. You can see why. All right, we're going to talk about that in turn. Then the Agreement on the Rescue of the Astronauts, the Return of Astronauts, the Return of Space Objects launched into outer space. That is called the Rescue Agreement. Convention on the International Liability and Damage Caused by Space Objects, Liability Agreement. Convention on the Registration of Objects launched into outer space, that's called the Registration Agreement. I promise these dates, by the way, are going to show up on future slides, which is pretty important. And then the agreement governing the activities of the states on the moon and other celestial bodies, that's the Moon Treaty. Okay. Now, if you were to go to this website, which I'm not going to because seriously I have no idea how I'm going to cover, the Moon Treaty and all of the rest of these, the text of them are on this website. That may not be something that you would actually read in a debate, but it could be the potential like text of a plan or text of a counterplan, which we will talk about. All right. Some key issues in current international space law. I've been trying to sort of communicate to you that there's been an evolution in what gets covered in international space law and what the purpose of the agreements are. And so these are some of the current issues that international legal scholars are thinking about. By the way, when I started to prepare for this lecture a while ago, I went on to Lexis and I just typed in Outer Space Treaty. And in the last, I think I did last 3 years, and I got like 150 law reviews. And I was surprised because this is not something that gets a lot of like popular media coverage, you know, I mean, other than the Colbert Report. And so that was surprising to me, but apparently